This conference will now be recorded.
So, in our last class, so what we are discussing. So, if you observe our previous classes, so till now we have created this either resource group, virtual network, or subnetwork, and finally this virtual machine, whether it is a Windows or Ubuntu, just we created by using graphical user interface basically, right? So now, if you want to create these same services, right? So by using command line interface, so it can be a PowerShell or it can be some shell scripting, or we can say that it is a bash shell as well, right? So by using this bash shell, so how can we create these services, right? So that thing just we are starting. We have started on in our last discussion or in our last class basically, right? So the same things. So everything is in command based basically. Okay, so nothing but creating a resource group or creating some ritual network, creating some, you want to create a one more subnet, so this is the command. If you want to create some network security group, so this is the command, right? I think till this four commands we discussed in our last class, right? So now if you want to create some network security role, right? So basically in graphical user interface, how we are creating the same thing, but here everything is a command based. So if you observe, first thing is, so we need to provide some network security role. After then, we need to create some this what we call resource group, and this is our network security group name, right? And followed by some network security role. Some name you can provide. Okay, so priority is nothing but 100, right? So source address prefixes. So just I'm giving some star. Source port ranges, right? Just I'm providing some star. Destination port prefixes, destination port ranges, access allow. Okay, so protocol TCP. Get description allowing all the traffic. So just we are creating some networks security rule. So then we are creating some availability set. So AZ VM availability set create. So what is our availability set name? So Azure test hyphen AV1, and again we need to mention some resource group in which location we are trying to create, nothing but some ES2S, right? So after that finally we are creating some virtual machine. Okay, so what is our resource group? This is our resource group. What is our virtual machine name? Nothing but Linux machine. Which type of image, I mean which type of OS? So nothing but Ubuntu virtual network. What is our virtual network name? This is our virtual network name which we created already. And what is our subnet name? This is our subnet name, right? And finally, so you can provide some username and password. My username is Shiva1 and I have given some password as well. And finally some size as well, whatever the size you want basically. And finally network security group name. So these are the commands, so each in which you want to create these services by using bash shell. Okay, so first of all, log into your portal.azure.com. Portal.azure.com. Provide your username and password. So here, as I mentioned you, we are trying to execute this command on bash shell, right? So here, as I mentioned in our last class, so two ways we can get some this bash shell feature within this Azure cloud. So one way is by clicking on here, that is nothing but what we are calling as a cloud shell. So whenever if you're trying to execute some commands in cloud shell, so definitely it is required some storage. So if you want, you can click on create storage. So just it is going to create some internal storage to execute this command. This is the one way basically. So another way is, so go to shell.azure.com azure.com. So here also it is expecting some storage. So just click on create storage. Okay. So now we are ready to execute this command. Cloud storage is created so that we are trying to execute the commands, whatever things which are discussed till now. Okay. So just first of all, I want to create some resource group. Just copy paste it here. So if you observe now, if you go to some resource group, just refresh it here. What is the resource group name? Azure test, right? See here. So it is created resource group name with the name as Azure test. Okay, but by using bash shell. So then we are trying to create some virtual network. So what is our virtual network name? Azure test v network, right? Click on enter. So it is created, right? If you observe, so this is our virtual network name, and within the same command we have mentioned some subnet name as well, right? So go to here, virtual networks. Here Azure test v network, and within this virtual network we have created some subnet as well. So Azure test subnet, right? So that's it. So now if you want to create a one more subnet, okay, and what is our subnet name? So here if you observe, I am creating some Azure test subnet 2. Currently we are having only Azure test subnet 1. After executing successfully this respective command, we are going to get a one more subnet with name as Azure test subnet 2, right? Click on enter. So it is created, right? So just refresh it here. See here. So it is created a one more subnet with name as Azure test subnet 2. So within the same virtual network. So if you observe here, I have mentioned my virtual network name. What is my virtual network name? Azure test v network. Within the same virtual network, we have tried to created a one more subnet with name as Azure test subnet, right? So now I'm trying to create some network security group basically. So type clear it here. Now it is trying to create some network security group. Then network security rule. So if you observe, network security group is created. So go to home and type some. If you are not finding some service, so type in Azure Cloud Search network security group, right? So just search it here. Here Azure test NSU1, right? So after network security group, okay, then try to execute this network security rule. Click on enter. So it is running. So it is executed some network security rule. So where we can check this network security rule here. So go to network security group, click on it, and within this, if you observe inbound security rules, and what is the network security rule name we have given? Azure test hyphen NSC. Underscore NSC underscore rule, right? Rule one. So if you observe here, this is the same name, right? So we have created network security rule within the network security group. Okay. So then we are trying to create some availability set as well. Just paste it here, click on enter. Okay, so it is created, right? So go to home and type here availability sets. See here, it is created some availability set, right? So what is this availability set or network security group? These things in detail we won't discuss. Okay, at this point of time, no need to worry. So finally, we are trying to create some virtual machine here. So type some clear, just paste it here, click on enter. Okay, so it is created some virtual machine as well. Go to this virtual machines. See here, Linux machine. We have given the same name, right? Here, if you observe, what is our name? Linux machine. Okay. So the only difference is previously we have created all of these services, right? So by using graphical user interface within the Azure cloud. Now we are trying to create all of these services by using Bash shell. That is also within the Azure cloud, but here everything is a command based. Simply we can say that. Okay, that is the only difference. So here, if you observe, So what is the difference? So whenever if you're trying to create the same services by using GUI, and what is the difference by using with Dash Shell? So have you identified any difference here? Any of you? What is the difference here? Any difference? Any of you? No difference? Here, if you observe these differences in command base, it is somewhat fast, right? When compared to graphical user interface, if you observe. Okay, so just if you copy paste each and everything sequentially, so just if you copy paste all of these things, so when compared to graphical user interface, this command base is somewhat fast if you notify, basically. Okay, but here just I'm copy pasting each and everything sequentially somewhat slowly as well. So just we are cross checking whether service is created or not. But instead of that, if you copy paste each and everything sequentially in this respect to Azure Cloud Shell, so it is somewhat fast as well when compared to graphical user interface. That is the one thing, right? What is the one more thing is, so let us assume I want to create some 100 virtual machines. Okay, I want to create some 100 virtual machines. Okay, so even if you go for GUI, it is taking too much time consuming, right? Same way in this bash shell as well. So it is also time consuming, and we need to cross check n number of things, basically. Okay, if you want to create some 50 or 100 virtual machines here, right? So in order to overcome this, so what we are going to do is, so here if you observe, just we are copy pasting each and everything is sequential. So after execution of this one, so just we are trying to create virtual network and trying to create some network security group. This is a sequential. Step by step, we are trying to execute all of these bash shell commands, right? So now here, even though if you're trying to if you want to create some 100 virtual machine, the same step, this step we need to execute 100 times, and I mean, we need to wait, right, till whatever the things is going on, and we need to cross check each and everything, whether the virtual machine is created or not. These all these things, right? So, I mean, physically we need to check it each and everything. So instead of that, what we are doing is, so as I mentioned, these are the sequential steps trying to execute these all of these things. So instead of that, copy paste each and everything, what we're going to do is, so we are trying to copy paste all of these commands in one virtual machine. Sorry, in one file instead of that. Okay, so here as a user, just we're copy pasting each and everything. So instead of that, what we are going to do is copy all of these commands in a single file, try to execute that file. Okay, so try to execute that file, so that so we no need to check each and everything, right? Each and everything, once if this file is executed automatically, right, then we can cross check all of these services as well. And even so, because of this, even if you want to create some 10 virtual machines or 20 virtual machines, just copy paste this command in that respective file, right, so that it is going to execute automatically. So we know we are not executing each and every command sequentially, basically. Okay, so even if it is taking 1 hour or 2 hours or even some 15 hours of time, we no need to worry, right? So just that process is going to execute at backend. Meanwhile, we can work on something, or meanwhile we can do remaining works. So these things is going to happen, right? So but in order to execute these things in file, so what we required is, we required some IDE, or we can say that we require some Visual Studio. So it is an IDE, nothing but integrated development environment. So now if you want to get that IDE, okay, so why we are going for IDE? Because we are copy pasting all of these commands in a single file, and we try to execute that file. So how can we execute that file is, so first of all, we require some IDE to, within that IDE, to create some file. Within that file, we try to execute all of these commands sequentially. Okay, so in order to get that Visual Studio, so one way is, so you can download the software from Google and try to install in your local machine. That is a one way. And another way is, Visual Studio is a product from Microsoft. So that is the reason they already integrated Visual Studio with the Azure Cloud account or Azure Cloud services. So simply we can get this Visual Studio within this within this bash shell itself. So command is just type code space dot. Just click on enter here. So this is nothing but a Visual Studio IDE inbuilt within the Azure cloud itself. We are going to get some IDE. Okay. So now within this IDE, just I want to create what we call, I want to create some file. So within that file, I try to copy paste all of these comments. Whatever the comments till now we have executed sequentially, all of these comments, just I'm trying to copy paste within this specific file basically. Okay. So if you want to create some command, so we already discussed in our basic Linux commands, maybe some 1 or 2 days back, right? So what is the command here? So if you observe, we're having a command called as a touch. If you want to create some file, so UUCH touch, I want to give some file name as abc.sh. On enter. So if you refresh it here it is created one file called as a bash. It is some file with a name as abc.sh, nothing but a shell scripting or a bash file. Simply we can set it. Now within this file, try to copy paste all of these commands. What are the commands? These are the commands, right? Which we have executed sequentially just now. Try to copy paste all of these commands here. Okay. Just I'm copy pasting all of these commands. Copy and paste it here. Okay. So if you observe here, we're having some dot, white dot means we have not yet saved. So just Control S, this file is saved. Okay, let me delete all of these services. Just I'm trying to delete some resource group. So now our intention is, we have copy pasted all of these bash shell commands in a single file. So now we try to execute this file abc.sh file, so that all of these services, what are the services which have included within this file, it is going to create automatically within the Azure cloud. So we no need to wait. So whether it is taking 1 hour or 2 hours of time, so within that respective time we can do some other work, right? So that is the thing. So how to execute this file we will discuss. So just once if this services is deleted within this Azure cloud account. So meanwhile, if anybody having any doubts, you can ask it. So network watcher RG is deleted. So it is deleted virtual machine. Virtual network is deleted. Network security group is also deleted. Cloud equity sets deleted. It is trying to delete resource flow. So finally it is deleted, right? So now our intention is we need to execute this file or we need to deploy this file, right? So how to execute this file now? So that is dot slash what is our file name? abc dot sh. So we're getting some message that is permission denied, means we are unable to execute that file. We are unable to execute this file. So what is the reason is, so if you observe any file which is belongs to some whether it is a bash shell or within this Linux, basically it is having some permission: read, write, and execute. Okay, what is the permissions here? Read, write, execute. So that is the reason. So some permission is missing for this specific file. So if you want to provide some permissions, right, or if you want to try to execute this file, right, so we need to provide all specific permissions for this specific file. So here my file name is abc.sh. I want to provide all of these permissions. Okay, so how can you provide that? Chmod. If you want to provide all the permissions, we need to provide 3 sevens followed by your file name, nothing but abc.sh. On enter. Okay, so now it is fine. Now try to deploy this file once again, or try to execute this file once again. See here, resource group is created. Virtual network is created. Network security group is also created. So it is trying to create some virtual machine. So it is created. So if you observe all of these things, first we're trying to create some resource group, right? So try to check that. So resource group is created, right? And then some virtual network and subnetwork, right? So you go to virtual network is created. Within this virtual network, subnet is created basically. Okay. So two subnets because we're trying to create one more subnet here. That is the reason we are having two subnets within this single virtual network. Next, it is trying to create some network security group. Go to here, network security group is created and network security rule. Within this network security group, so it is trying to create some network security rule. This is the rule, right? And then availability sets. If you go to home, click on this availability sets. Availability set is also created. And finally, virtual machine. If you observe, this is our virtual machine. So if you observe, mostly it is taken around 2 minutes of time. But if the same things, if you want to try to create by using graphical user interface, so definitely it's going to create. It will take minimum at least 5 to 10 minutes. At least it is going to take 10 minutes of time. Okay, so this is the one of the advantage whenever if you're going with some bash shell. So these services is created automatically, right? Basically, so is less time consuming when compared to graphical user interface, and we no need to worry. So when it is going to create these all these things, because all of these things we're trying to execute in a command base. So this file is going to execute automatically, we no need to work, right? Even though if you're trying to create a two maybe some 5 virtual machines, just you can copy paste these virtual machines here. Just this piece of code, just you need to copy paste here. Here you can copy paste these all these things. So even though if you're trying to execute the same file one more time, right? So it is going to cross check. So whether do you have any resource group with name as Azure test or not, or maybe some virtual network name. So it is going to cross check. Do you have this virtual network with the same name or not? All of these things it is going to cross check. So if you don't have, then only it is trying to create these services within the Azure cloud account. Okay, so otherwise it won't create. So even though if you are copy pasting the same command, linux machine linux machine linux machine, so some 2 to 3 times, it will not create basically, because already we're having some linux machine, right? So that is the reason. So if you, for suppose if I'm providing something linux machine 1, now it is going to try to create a new virtual machine with the name as a linux machine 1. So like this it is going to cross check these all these services and trying to create a new service if and only if that particular service is not exist with the same name. Okay, so this is the way to try to create some services by using bash shell, and here we are trying to deploy a specific file once if you copy paste all of these commands in a single file. Okay, so any doubts, any of you? Hello, any doubts? So first of all, did you get the concept what we're doing exactly? Previously, if you observe in our previous class as well, we're trying to execute these commands sequentially one by one. Now instead of that, what we're doing, we have created one file. Within that file, we try to copy paste whatever the services or whatever things which are required. So we are trying to execute or we are trying to deploy that file by using Visual Studio IDE. That is the thing what we are doing till now. That's it. Okay. If you're having any doubts, please let us know.
No, Shiva.
So these points we already discussed. Just I'm recalling one more time. Okay. So what are things which I have done by using this abc.sh file? So each account will have one tenant ID. Each tenant ID will have multiple subscription IDs. Each subscription ID will have multiple resource groups. Each resource group will have multiple virtual networks. Each virtual network will have multiple networks. Each virtual machine will have only about this. Okay, so finally, if you want to create some virtual machine, all these things are required basically. Okay, so this is the same point which are discussed in previous classes as well. And if you observe this specific file, right, these things only it is doing. It is following the same hierarchy of Azure account, whatever the points which are mentioned here. Okay, because any account, these things is common. This tenant ID, this subscription, these things is common basically. Okay, but here within that Azure cloud account, so if you want to try to create some virtual machine, whether it is a Windows or Ubuntu, compulsory we require some resource group followed by some virtual network and sub networks, and finally we can create some virtual machine here. Okay, so these are the comments you require. Okay, so that's all for today. So tomorrow we're going to discuss about what is the importance of network security group, or simply we can say that what is the reason to go for network security group or network security rule. These all these things we're going to discuss basically. Okay.